Former President Donald Trump is angry, and he doesn't care who knows it. Watch.
People said that I was angry at the debate. Angry. I was angry. And yes, I am angry because he allowed 21 million illegal aliens invading our communities. Many of them are criminals. Many are criminals. I'm angry. They said he's an angry person. No, they're destroying our country. I am angry about Venezuelan gangs taking over Aurora, Colorado. I'm angry about young American girls being raped and sodomized and murdered by savage criminal aliens. I'm angry about rampant inflation destroying our middle class, and the American people are also very angry about that and every other thing that we've had to endure for 3.5 years. That's why 54 days from now, we are going to tell Harris that we've had enough. Our country can't take it anymore.
Kayleigh, you know what I appreciate about this so much is that this is another example of when the left tries to spin President Trump and his emotions as being all about him. And President Trump is sitting there saying, yeah, I am angry. And I'm angry on behalf of all of us for what is being done to this country. Yet again, for the upteenth time, it's actually not about him as a human. It's about him as a fellow American.
And you hit exactly where my thoughts were. Look, McCourtney Institute for Democracy in January did a survey, and they found 9 in 10 Americans are angry about some news event. They could point to one, some political event. And only 4 in 5, or about half, could say they were proud of a particular American political event. I say that because Americans are angry. I am angry. Every day I have to sit here and talk about NYPD officers in Times Square being attacked by an illegal immigrant, a girl in New York City being raped by an illegal immigrant. When I have to get to know the stories of Laken Riley, Rachel Morin, and Jocelyn Ngari, who should still be here with us, I get angry. When 13 died at Abbey Gate, I get angry. Hey, I get angry when there's a school shooting and 6 days later there's a presidential debate and ABC finds no time to ask about school shootings, but tons of time to ask about J6 and all of these personal attacks on Trump. But for Trump, and this is the point you hit, and it's so important, Kamala is trying to get him to direct that anger towards his own reasons to be angry at the Trump trials, and the list goes on. And he does have a right to be angry about all that. But if there's another debate, he should pivot that anger away from saying, here's my thoughts on the Trump trials, like you're trying to goad me into doing. I want to go back to the fact that you were asked a question about migrant crime, and you talked about the Trump trials. It's not about me. It's about these women. Say their names. So redirecting that anger, as he did right there brilliantly, to the events in the American political landscape is a winner every day of the week.
And let's talk about winning, Kara. So will this type of sentiment, the fact that, yes, Kayleigh is echoing what so many millions of Americans feel, the outrage, the indignance, the pain, will that translate in November?
I truly hope so, because I sort of see Trump right now as the avatar for the middle class. You know, no matter what Kamala Harris says about her upbringing and whatnot, and Tony neighborhoods in Canada notwithstanding, I really think that Trump has his finger on the pulse of what the everyday American is feeling. And you look at the immigration issue, I thought the House Judiciary Committee was really interesting in terms of their strategy this past week. On Tuesday, they had a hearing where they aired the victims of this open border, Biden-Harris open border issue. And they talked to advocates, they talked to family members, some of which of the women that you just mentioned. And the Democrats were looking at their phones. They were chiding the family members of some of the victims in this instance. And yet you could not watch that, especially as a mom, without tears, understanding the effect that it has on the people who cannot isolate themselves from the consequences of the disastrous policies of the left. So that is what I think the American people are going to be pulling the lever for in November, hopefully.
Yeah, and however, the media will continue to not only smear President Trump, but to paint him as an angry, bitter self. Like, they will still try to construct this fake narrative about him. Will that work?
That is why what Kayleigh said, her advice for the president, channeling that anger into these two topics, the economy and the border/safety, I'll wrap them up, is so crucial. Admittedly, I am a guy, and guys are simple. We like simple messages boiled down to 2 basic facts at the most. So if I'm Donald Trump, you need to communicate to everybody going forward the following thing. Kamala Harris was part of the Biden-Harris administration for the last 3.5 years. We have record inflation. We have record border crossings. If you don't like that, vote for the other guy. And I'm really driving home this simplicity point. You want the last thing that an undecided in a swing state thinks about before they check a box or pull a lever or do anything is one image. Trump needs, between now and November 5th or whenever early voting begins in a state, to have it so that he is the last thing that people think about before they pull a lever. All the other stuff needs to go to the side, and that's why Kayleigh is so right. Channel that anger.
Ainsley, I wanted to come to you last on this specific point, because as we talk about sort of harnessing the anger and the outrage that so many Americans feel, 90 million evangelicals are eligible to vote in this country, and yet 40 million of them do not, and 15 million are not even registered. Pastor Gary Hamrick had an amazing election sermon where he discussed that statistic and talked about the importance of voting policy, not personality. And so as the left, as the media tries to spin personalities here, when it's really about policy, do you feel that President Trump will be able to harness that very crucial bloc that needs or should be called to step up to vote for these policies that'll help Americans?
I loved when one man said, "What do I tell my children? I have 3 boys." This was at the town hall, and Donald Trump said, "Tell your boys to pray." Evangelicals definitely need to get out there and vote. The abortion issue is very important to them. Kamala Harris couldn't even answer the question whether or not she's for or against 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. When is it too late? When the baby can feel pain, are you okay with that? She couldn't answer it. She didn't answer other questions. When asked, are you better today or are you better under Trump? She couldn't answer it. She spun it to, I grew up in a middle-class family, and started talking about her policies. Look, you might not love Donald Trump, and he said that in the town hall. You might not like me. It is about who's best for your family and what's best for America. We were better under those 4 years with him than we were with her. All the prices, look at the grocery store, the gasoline prices, even just for social issues, policy, fiscally conservative, it's all Donald Trump. I align more with him. What am I concerned with? Immigration, crime, and inflation. I want more money in my bank account, and then we'll spend more money, and the economy will boom again.
Yep. That's right. And what you just articulated, your priorities, that is reflected in the polls, that the vast majority of Americans feel the same. Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.